Hello and welcome to Political Adda. I am Manasi Phadke, Deputy Editor with ThePrint, and I have with me our Political Editor joining from Delhi, DK Singh, and Vaibhav Purandare, who has been a journalist in the past and is an author. He's also written an exhaustive book on the Shiv Sena titled Uddhav Thackeray and the Rise of the Shiv Sena. And needless to say, the topic that we will be discussing in today's Political Adda is Maharashtra Speaker Rahul Narvekar's decision in the Shiv Sena versus Shiv Sena case, the decision on who is the real Shiv Sena and what to do with the disqualification petitions that the two factions had filed against each other. A short recap, Rahul Narvekar yesterday delivered his judgment. He read the operative part where he basically said that the Eknath Shinde-led faction was the real Shiv Sena. The basis for this decision was the legislative strength of the party. We'll talk more about that later. And he also quashed the disqualification petitions filed by both factions against each other, saying that the grounds on which the disqualification petitions were filed were based on mere allegations and assertions, and there was no evidence on record to disqualify MLAs from either side. So we'll take it from here. So to begin with, the decision coming so close to the Lok Sabha elections, I would like DK as well as Mr. Purandare to talk about this. What does this mean for both the factions?
Vaibhav, please go ahead. We would like to hear you on this.
Thanks, DK. Well, for Eknath Shinde, this ruling by the speaker comes as a tremendous boost, and it strengthens his position as the chief minister and also as a leader of the rival faction of the Shiv Sena that he set up after leaving the Thackeray camp. For the last couple of years, ever since he moved away from the Thackerays, there have been questions raised about his credibility, firstly, as a Shiv Sena leader, the legitimacy of his group, and also the right of Eknath Shinde to claim the Shiv Sena as his own. And persistently and almost every day, the Thackeray camp has been alleging that this is an illegal government and this is an illegal leader. Now, what the speaker's ruling does is establish him firmly as a Shiv Sena leader and also as the leader of this government. And in a sense, it makes it very clear that he is the legitimate leader of this Mahayuti government in Maharashtra. This ruling in itself would not have worked, but it comes after two successive rulings. One by the Election Commission, which has also had a bearing on the speaker's ruling, and the other ruling has been by the Supreme Court, which refused to reinstate the Uddhav Thackeray government.
Without getting into the bits of his argument, my point is we never expected Narvekar, a BJP MLA, to go against his party's interest. So his ruling is on expected lines. But before I come to that, let me ask you have done exhaustive research on Uddhav Thackeray. Tell me about the emotional impact of this on Shiv Sainiks in general. So can Eknath Shinde claim to be the leader of Shiv Sainiks while Uddhav Thackeray's son is out there in the wilderness?
Well, that's a very good question, DK. Now, this is slightly nuanced because there is no clear answer to that question yet. Yes, Eknath Shinde is now legally the leader of the Shiv Sena, and he has a right over the Shiv Sena. His whip now is the legitimate Shiv Sena whip in the assembly as well. But what happens in the court of public opinion? The Thackeray's have always been in charge of the Shiv Sena. Balasaheb Thackeray had an iconic status as far as Shiv Sainiks were concerned. The Shiv Sena has been a party that has revolved completely around the personality of Balasaheb Thackeray. What has happened in the Uddhav Thackeray era is that gradually that reality has got a little obscured, in the sense that Uddhav's apparent lack of accessibility has not helped. At the same time, to Uddhav's credit, it must be said that he kept the Shiv Sena going over the past decade since his father's death in 2012. In 2014, when he fought the elections actually separately and not with the BJP, the Shiv Sena succeeded in getting 63 seats, which was an impressive number. Now, people are quoting these 63 seats and this performance and his ability to stand up to the BJP led by Modi in 2014 to assert that the position is pretty much the same now. But the truth on the ground is that the position has considerably changed.
Hmm.
And a lot of what we are talking about is political history, of course, but a lot of it is also nostalgia. And even Shiv Sainiks on the ground know, and they are completely aware of the fact that a lot of it may be nostalgia. Some amount of it is the truth. There is an emotional connect that the Thackeray family has with the Shiv Sainiks, and that Shiv Sainiks have with the Thackeray family, which is why they have been going on and on saying that there is no Shiv Sena without the Thackerays. And that is a line that they will have to keep going on with going ahead, because there's no option if they want to
Will this
retain the
bring
party
them?
leadership. But things on the ground have changed considerably because Uddhav's lack of accessibility, either for health reasons or any other reason. One of the reasons alleged is the coterie around him, which has made accessibility difficult for ground level functionaries to give them an idea of the assessment that they have of ground realities. So the distance between the Thackeray family and the Shiv Sainiks and Shiv Sena functionaries, Shiv Sena sympathizers, Shiv Sena voters on the ground has no doubt increased over the past decade. Now, has there been that distance increased even further when the Shiv Sena actually uh, charted its own independent path in 2019 and joined hands with its sworn adversaries, the Congress and the NCP. Now, that creates a peculiar situation for the Shiv Sena, which has a 50-year-old history of aggressive militant nationalism. But in Mumbai, the Shiv Sena still has a robust Shakha network, which still has deep links with the Thackeray family. Now, going forward, what we'll have to see is whether the accessibility of the Thackeray family with regard to this network really increases. If it does not, then things on the ground will not change. If there is some sympathy on the ground, and there has been a lot of talk of sympathy among Shiv Sena voters on the so-called betrayal by Eknath Shinde or the so-called betrayal by the BJP. If there is a sympathy vote, let's assume there is a sympathy vote, but to reap the crop of that sympathy vote, you have actually to go out and work very hard. Now, that is the key question. Will the Thackeray's be doing that? We can see Aditya Thackeray, Uddhav Thackeray's son, going all over the place, delivering speeches. But this is not simply about delivering speeches and going all over the place. This is about strengthening your party organization at the very grassroots level and having constant interactions with your party functionaries, which I think has not happened, frankly.
Have the Thackeray tried to change since losing power, or do they still remain inaccessible?
So that is one of the principal. It's a lovely question, and it's a very important question you have raised. Now, that is one of the significant things that needs to be observed. And my observation is that things on the ground have not changed at all. Now, Uddhav Thackeray, for health reasons, has not been able to communicate as much with the party grassroots functionaries as perhaps he would have liked to. So that reason may be considered legitimate, okay, in the eyes of the people. But what about the rest of the leadership? That's where I'm saying that Aditya, if he's anointing Aditya as the future leader, and that very much seems to be the case, then he will have to go in much more aggressively into the political arena and interact very, very aggressively and closely with party people, reach out to Shiv Sena sympathizers and voters. Here I'm not just talking about party people, and make them feel that the Thackeray still have a connect with the Marathi Manus on the ground.
Yeah, I was just asking that, yes, on paper, the fight was about who is the real Shiv Sena, but there is also an intangible fight about who are the real legacy holders of Bar Thackeray. Where does Bar Thackeray's legacy stand in one Shiv Sena, which is now with Bar Thackeray's rivals, and with the other Shiv Sena, which is basically publicly acknowledging Modi's leadership and saying we are all Modi's men? Where is Bar Thackeray's legacy here?
Right. Actually, my answer to that question is that that era is over. And yesterday we saw the definitive end to that era, actually. The speaker's verdict and or whatever has happened in the last couple of years marks the definitive end of that era. Why am I saying that? Because arguments can be made on both sides. Okay, Uddhav Thackeray can say that he is my father. Obviously, I am the legatee, and me and my son are the legatees. And Matoshri is the final port of call for everybody. Now, one thing about Matoshri that needs to be kept in mind is that Matoshri was powerful because Barasaheb Thackeray was sitting there. Okay, if Barasaheb had been sitting somewhere at Nariman Point in South Mumbai, then that would have become a power center. So again, what I'm pointing to is the fact that it was his leadership that was the single most powerful glue, and his charisma that was at work. Now things have changed. Okay, for the first time, we are hearing no talk even in the India Bloc Alliance seat sharing talks of anybody going to Matoshri to discuss seat sharing. You see, so that itself is another indicator of what I'm saying, that this is already the end of an era. Okay, things have changed fundamentally on the ground. Nobody is now going to no reporters are asking leaders, when are you going to Matoshri to discuss seat sharing, and nor are party leaders talking about it. So that has already happened. At the same time, Uddhav can say that I am the son, and this party revolves around the family, and it's my father's legacy, and I am indeed carrying forward his legacy by not bowing to the instincts of the current crop of the BJP, which is seeking to basically seize control of the Shiv Sena voter base as well. So I am holding on to that voter base. Okay. Now he could very well have said that. The problem that has arisen in this regard is his tying up with the Congress and the NCP. Now, of course, he has the freedom to do that, and he has the full freedom to sort of give a new direction to his party. But then it is his responsibility and challenge to prove it to his voters that this is the right direction that he's going in, and at the same time to keep his flock intact. Now, this is a big challenge. Okay, the argument that can be made for the Eknath Shinde side is that while Uddhav Thackeray is by birth no doubt the successor of Vaibhav Thackeray, and Aditya is his grandson, and we have in a sense bowed to our founder's memory by not seeking to disqualify Aditya Thackeray, but seeking to disqualify everybody else. At the same time, what Eknath Shinde can say is that I truly represent the interests and values of the Shiv Sena as established by Barasaheb Thackeray. So he is positioning himself as the ideological legatee of Barasaheb Thackeray. And what he is also saying at the same time is that Modi is fulfilling the aspirations of Barasaheb Thackeray, whether it is the question of the Ram Mandir, whether it's the question of the abolition of Article 370, whether it's the question of abolishing triple talaq, and all these Hindutva factors.
Well, before I logged in here, I and Mansi were talking, and she was telling me that, this UBT faction is trying to project yesterday's verdict as, as some kind of a betrayal of Marathi Manus by the Shinde faction. They'll obviously be trying that. So how strong is this Marathi Manu sentiment in Maharashtra today?
The Marathi Manu sentiment is very strong. It continues to be very strong. What I mean when I say Uddhav has to re-establish his connect with the voter is that he has to convince that voter that he still represents the Marathi Manus in the real sense of the term. Now, that is a big question to which there are no clear-cut answers. A section of the Marathi community still strongly feels that yes, Uddhav does represent them, but that section is largely in Mumbai and in Thane. Okay, so your question is very much legitimate. Does that sentiment exist? Yes, that sentiment exists. Is it as powerful as it used to be? Yes, it is as powerful as it used to be. Okay. Now, will he be able to exploit that sentiment? Now, that is a question to which we do not have an answer at the moment. And if one looks at the efforts being made by the Uddhav Thackeray led Shiv Sena, then my assessment at the moment is that they are not in a position to exploit that sentiment. The big question now is that three verdicts have gone against Uddhav Thackeray. What are Shiv Sainik's feeling on the ground? Are they in a position to pull their sympathetic voters out to vote in that direction? Okay, what is the morale of the party workers on the ground? What is the morale of the sympathizers also? Because if Eknath Shinde goes out and says that no, we will keep the Shiv Sena intact, Balasahev Shiv Sena intact, and I am in power, people also are pragmatic nowadays. So they are going to think that where is our future secure? Even a political worker is going to think, where is my future secure? Will Eknath Shinde ensure my political future? Or will Uddhav Thackeray ensure my political future? That is why, right at the beginning, I said that if Thackeray does not reconnect with voters and with party functionaries on the ground, this is going to be a difficult time for him and for his group. Because the voter has also started thinking now, with the Eknath Shinde faction getting legitimacy, there will be questions in the minds of voters also who are inclined towards the Shiv Sena. There will be discussions within the Maharashtrian community that if say the old Shiv Sena is going forward under Shinde, should we invest in it or not? Invest in it electorally, I mean, and in terms of sympathy or not? Maybe they won't, but the discussion is going to take place. You see, now that creates a challenge for the for Uddhav, and it always helps to have power on your side. Shinde has the power on his side. Shinde has functionaries on his side. Uddhav's big challenge now is to stop any further exodus of party workers. This year is very critical, which is why this judgment that came yesterday is very important.
What obscures the pitch even further, is the fact that the said Marathi constituency of the Shiv Sena was always opposed to the Congress in Mumbai.
Yeah, so Mansi, you're absolutely right. I think what has to be kept in mind is that the Shiv Sena, people always say that, go back to and I know the history of the Shiv Sena because I've written a book on the history of the Shiv Sena. I've researched the subject deeply and I've spoken to Shiv Sena leaders as well as sworn enemies of the Shiv Sena. So it is true that the Shiv Sena broke bread with the Congress in its initial couple of decades. But the Shiv Sena then remained a very small party limited to Mumbai. And that too, it had the following of only a section of Mumbaikar Maharashtrians. What happened after its adoption of Hindutva nationalism in the 1980s and 1990s is that the party simply took off in a big way. And that spread of the party was phenomenal in that decade. And it is as a result of that embrace of Hindu nationalism, while retaining its Maharashtrian character and identity and roots, that the Shiv Sena became such a big political party. So I believe that it has been a bit of harakiri to have abandoned Hindutva. Even if Uddhav were to go it alone, if I would have been in Uddhav's place, what I would have done if I weren't getting along well with the BJP, with the Modi-led BJP, is I would have completely cut off any ties with the BJP and gone with my own version of the Shiv Sena with the same ideology of the Shiv Sena. Now, by breaking bread with the Congress and the Sharad Pawar group, there have been serious complications because for the first time, actually, the new voter, the Shiv Sena voter who saw it in alliance with the Congress in the 60s and 70s is not the voter who's deciding its future now.
Today.
And even that voter has changed because that voter shifted dramatically to Hindutva. Once Balasahev adopted Hindutva, that voter shifted to Hindutva. So that voter himself has changed or herself has changed. For the first time, the Shiv Sena has been seen to be ideologically footloose, which was not the case in the past 3 decades. So that's a significant shift. Now, Uddhav will have to explain this shift really well to the voters, and he can very much still do that because the Shinde faction has a very limited reach in Mumbai.
No, I just wanted to basically say that, one thing is for sure that Eknath Shinde, his son, Shrikant, they are all 24/7 politicians.
Yes.
Because you were talking about Thackeray, because I have seen them surrounded by workers at 2 o'clock at night.
Absolutely.
So that approach is definitely missing in Thackeray camp.
Yeah.
Usually, Manasi is my go-to person for Maharashtra politics. But now that you are there, let me toss up this question to you. How will this Ayodhya event, say consecration of Ram Lala on the 22nd of January, play out in Maharashtra in terms of these two factions of the Shiv Sena?
If you look at the Shiv Sena voter, whether that voter or sympathizer belongs to the Thackeray faction or the Shinde faction, you will see diyas being lit in every Shiv Sena household when the consecration takes place, and there will be genuine celebrations and very serious celebrations in the broad Shiv Sena family when that happens. So, if you ask me about the Shiv Sena voter and sympathizer, the Thackeray sympathizers are going to appreciate the fact that the Ram temple has come up in Ayodhya, because they come from the position that Bal Thackeray held uh, 3 decades ago, and which he publicly stated that if my Shiv Sainiks have demolished the Babri, then I am proud of them. Okay, and that was at a time when even the BJP was disowning the demolition, and saying that we never did it. So that will play out very positively in the minds of the Shiv Sena voter, and it will add to Uddhav Thackeray's challenges, no doubt about that. You correctly spoke about Shinde being a 24 by 7 worker. And I think one thing that Shinde has demonstrated is an awareness of his own shortcomings. Often people do not demonstrate that awareness. Shinde knows that he does not have the charisma that, say, somebody from the Thackeray family might carry, may or may not carry. Parasaheb certainly had that charisma. Uddhav has his own appeal. Aditya has got elected from Worli and is addressing rallies across Maharashtra. He is being surrounded by Shiv Sainiks. He has a certain appeal of his own. And the Thackeray camp would want that appeal to grow exponentially, in fact, in the coming future. So Shinde is aware very much that uh, does he have that charisma? If he's short on charisma, then how can he make up that shortfall? So he makes up that shortfall by working very hard, by going constantly to the ground. He knows that if he wants to win Mumbai, where the Thackeray's have a considerable degree of sympathy, then he has to hit the ground running. That is why he's going and visiting nallas and checking whether cleaning work is happening in those nallas or not. Now, this is almost unprecedented for a chief minister to go and do that.
There's a lot of speculation. Many people in political circles talk about it, that eventually Eknath Shinde may decide, or the BJP may persuade him to join the BJP and become the BJP's face in Maharashtra. So, what are the remotest possibilities we are talking about? But you cannot completely rule it out. How much possibility do you see here?
That possibility,
not now, not in the next 1 year, 2 years, in the long term.
That possibility certainly exists very much. In fact, forget about being, having to rule it out. It's a very real possibility going into the future. Maybe in the near future, maybe 5 years down the line, maybe 7 years down the line. So then the question arises is, now Eknath Shinde can justify it on the grounds that it is the Modi-led BJP which is fulfilling Barasaheb's dreams, which is the argument he has been making all along. Now, what happens then to the Shiv Sena constituency, the Marathi constituency that believes in regional aspirations and wants a party that reflects those regional aspirations? Now, that vote is going to be up for grabs. Now, will it stay with will it go back to Uddhav then? Will it stay with Uddhav assuming a large part stays with Uddhav? Now, this is where the NCP comes in, and do not disregard the NCP at all. And this is where the Congress in Maharashtra comes in. The reason the Congress is bargaining so hard with the Thackeray Sena in Maharashtra for seat sharing for the Lok Sabha elections is that it knows that this is its golden opportunity. And the NCP, both the factions of the NCP know that this is their golden opportunity. And they are going to eat into the Marathi vote base. Both are waiting to grab that Marathi vote base. Maybe they will talk of Marathi votes as well as the larger Indian picture without antagonizing the migrants. Now, Thackeray's issue was that the migrants got antagonized when they raised the Marathi issue. But if you reflect regional aspirations in such a way that you also take along members of other communities, then that is entirely possible. The regional constituency of the Marathi Manus is now truly up for grabs, and all four parties can keep it. Shinde can keep it, Uddhav Thackeray can keep it, the NCP can grab it, of the NCP of the Ajit group, Ajit Pawar group, the NCP of the Sharad Pawar group, and the Congress as well. And the other thing that cannot be ruled out is the BJP can get into the picture and project itself also as one of the players in that ring and in that competition to get the Marathi votes. They have already done social engineering in Maharashtra, but they have not been able to crack that Maharashtrian vote base yet. If they come up with a strategy to do that, while also retaining their broader Hindutva base and not antagonizing the North Indians and other communities or the Gujaratis that live in Mumbai, then the BJP will also be a competitor in that game.
Right. Before we end, one last question on the speaker's verdict. So the speaker basically considered three parameters: the party's constitution, the 2018 leadership change, and the legislative majority, and went by the legislative majority. Now there's this whole confusion of elections being held in 2018 to appoint Uddhav Thackeray as the party chief, which was communicated to the election commission. The Shiv Sena Thackeray faction says that they also sent a copy of the amended constitution to the election commission. Election commission says the constitution was never really brought on record. So, and irrespective of what the decision is, it is evidently clear that in Shiv Sena, it is the will of the party chief that is synonymous with the will of the party. That has always been the case. And perhaps with some other parties also, not, beyond Maharashtra. But with everything that has happened now, do you think it will actually force parties to hold elections more seriously, to strengthen the intra-party democracy, to be more vigilant in their filings with the EC, and to follow the script of law to the point? What kind of changes might this bring?
Mansi, that's a very good question, Mansi. I think what has happened with the speaker's verdict goes to the very heart of what the Shiv Sena is all about. And when I heard it yesterday, I felt that, oh my God, he's really got into the soul of the Shiv Sena. Because the Shiv Sena is a completely dictatorial party. And even when it got registered with the Election Commission in 1989, it was very clear that Balasaheb Thackeray called the shots. There was a Rashtriya Karyakarani which they put in place because the EC guidelines required it to put in place. And then on the prodding of the Election Commission, they gradually changed their constitution. And in 1999, they submitted a constitution which had some semblance of inner party democracy, with the national executive being in place and then the party chief consulting the national executive and giving its decisions. Now, all that is fine. But now this is where again the young generation of the Thackeray's has not seen this coming, because they live in the 1960s and 1970s and 1980s and the 1990s, and things have changed drastically in the last 3 decades. Now this is a wake-up call for parties across India. Okay, I'm only going by prima facie by what the speaker has said. Okay, people can argue that papers were submitted. Now even the speaker here has said that yes, papers were submitted, but which papers were submitted? The who are the newly elected office bearers in 2018? Those papers were submitted. But a copy of the amended constitution, and then the party has to pass a resolution saying that we have amended our constitution, and these are the details of the amendments. All that is not with the EC at all. So this is actually the Shiv Sena old style of functioning. This is ki hum kare so kaida, and we are like that. But that is how the party is, and that is the party's appeal as well, because that is how the party grew around Balasaheb Thackeray, and all this worked when Balasaheb was around. But things have changed. Things are also very different from 2014. And that is something that I think the Thackeray camp has to keep in mind. Now, the Thackeray camp has not only created a legal loophole, they have created a legal crater by not complying with some very basic guidelines laid down by the EC. So this is a ruling where every political party in India is going to suddenly wake up and pull out their papers and check every point there. From 2014 onwards, see, 2014 was very fresh. Barasaheb was very fresh in people's memory. He had died in December 2012, and they did well in the 2014 elections because that memory was very much there. The BJP was not so powerful then. It was powerful, but not so powerful. Things have moved considerably in the past 10 decades. A new generation of voters has also come in, and it's only fair that people should accept inner party democracy. Nobody is doing anybody a favor. The Shiv Sena, led by the Thackerays, can do extremely well even if it adopts inner party democracy. And I will go to the extent of saying is that it will do well if it actually truly adopts inner party democracy.
All right. Thank you. We'll end on that note. Thanks a lot for joining us today and sharing your expertise and experience on the Shiv Sena. Thank you so much, DK, for joining, and thank you to our viewers for watching Political Adda.
Thank you, Mansi. Thank you.